When you hear the words drug cartel, what comes to mind? It's probably violence, right? Fear, chaos. But what if I told you that for decades, the real secret to their incredible success wasn't just brutality? What if it was a calculated, almost corporate-style playbook that weaponized, of all things, generosity? Okay, so let's just dive right into this. Because to really understand their strategy, you first have to get your head around the sheer mind-boggling scale of their operation. I mean, we're not talking about a criminal niche here. This was a global economic empire. Get ready for this number. Back in 2014, the global narcotics market was valued at an estimated 500 times billion dollars. To put that into perspective for you, that's an economy the size of Sweden's. When you hear a number that big, it just leads to one single, inescapable question. That's the whole mystery, isn't it? An operation this massive doesn't just happen by accident. No way. It happens by design, and it was all thanks to a specific playbook that allowed them to grow into this global force. This just goes to show this isn't just a crime problem. It's a global economic phenomenon. So now, let's pull back the curtain and decode the blueprint they actually use to build these empires. To do that, we really need to look at this through a completely different lens. We're going to analyze cartels not as simple street gangs, but as really complex organizations, using a powerful framework that explains how any successful system, or in this case, a dangerously successful one, actually works. And that framework is built on something called systemic principles. Now, think of these as, well, as the organizational DNA. They're the unwritten rules about leadership, about belonging, about exchange that make any system, from a family to a Fortune 500 company, either thrive or completely fall apart. And this right here, this is where the cartel playbook gets really, really clever. See, they didn't ignore these principles. They twisted them into weapons. A healthy company, for instance, seeks a fair balance of give and take. A cartel creates an intentional imbalance. A healthy organization has a positive purpose. A cartel's purpose is just ruthless survival. They literally took the rules of healthy systems and flipped them upside down. And you know what's wild? They started by following some of the rules perfectly. For a while, the most successful cartels operated with the kind of discipline and structure you'd see in a ruthless multinational corporation. And this slide just perfectly illustrates their corporate genius. I mean, look at this. It's a classic, vertically integrated supply chain. From the fields where the cocoa was grown all the way to the final sale on the street, they controlled every single step. This maximized their profit, it maximized their power, just like any other global corporation would do. They absolutely nailed the #1 principle of any strong hierarchy. Leadership comes first. The authority of the boss, of their inner circle, was completely unambiguous. It was absolute. There was never, ever any question about who was in charge. Just think about the nicknames they earned. They weren't just names. They reinforced this whole principle of leadership. El Padrino, the Godfather. El Jefe de Jefes, the boss of bosses. These weren't just titles. They were declarations of absolute authority, cementing this almost mythical status at the very top of the pyramid. And they stuck to other key principles, too. They respected time. Loyalty was proven over years, not days. They revered special skills, turning founders like El Chapo into these larger-than-life folk heroes. And they created this incredibly intense sense of belonging with one very clear message. You are either with us or you are against us. So they followed the rules for building a strong hierarchical organization. That's clear. But that alone doesn't explain their unique, explosive success. Their true genius was in the rules they chose to break. So what was it? What was that secret ingredient that took them from just being a powerful gang and transformed them into something like a quasi-state? Well, the answer really lies in this key distinction. Other coercive groups, like cults, they often exploit family entanglements. Their whole goal is to separate you from your loved ones. But the big cartels, they did the exact opposite. They exploited societal entanglements. They didn't want to break up your family. They wanted to give you the means to provide for them like never before. And they exploited one key vulnerability to do it: government neglect. They specifically targeted regions where the state, the governing parent, was totally absent or ineffective, leaving people feeling completely abandoned. The cartels didn't just find a void, they strategically stepped right in to fill it. And look at how they did it. This wasn't just them handing out cash. They built homes, schools, and hospitals. They brought electricity to towns that had never had it. They paved roads, created jobs that paid more in a day than you could make in a month of honest work, and they even sponsored huge community celebrations. They were literally doing the work of a government. And this strategy is just perfectly captured by this quote from our source material. This so-called generosity, it was all designed to create a massive imbalance of exchange. The community became so indebted to them that they felt this powerful obligation to repay the cartel, with loyalty, with silence, and with protection from the state. But this classic Robin Hood model, the thing that really defined the cartels of the 80s and 90s, well, it seems to be changing. The whole landscape has evolved. Yeah, the whole dynamic has shifted. Those classic, high-profile cartels became huge targets for law enforcement, and that forced them to adapt. Today's organizations are often way smaller, and they keep a much lower profile. But in shrinking, they've kind of lost their ability to control entire communities through that deep, strategic investment. And what has that left them with? It's left them far more reliant on just pure violence to maintain control. Which leaves us with a final, lingering question, doesn't it? As this old model fades away, are we actually seeing the defeat of the cartels? Or are we simply witnessing their evolution into something new, something more fragmented, and maybe something we don't even fully understand yet?